How do we do Zoom and virtual conferencing better? We've been doing it now for a while, but a lot of people still are talking about Zoom fatigue. Or there's a lot of different people who are reporting that things aren't getting done very well, and there's a lot of disconnection. So today I want to give you 3 principles on how to Zoom, how to do virtual conferencing better.
Welcome to Advance with Mike Acker, the podcast designed to help entrepreneurs, business leaders, and professionals alike break through barriers by improving their practical leadership skills and increasing confidence in speaking. Your host is a best-selling author, executive coach, and founder of the Advance Public Speaking School and Advantage Publishing Group, 2 companies dedicated to providing an edge for leaders. Find out more about Mike at mikeacker.com. Now here's your host, Mike Acker.
I'm really looking forward to diving into this on how to do virtual conferencing better. This is something that I study. Quite literally have done a lot of research on this, understanding what's happening to our bodies, understanding what happens to our mind, and how we can do this better. See, I was doing Zoom before Zoom was Zoom, before the pandemic, in other words. And I was working with people, helping people understand how to even turn on Zoom. So when the pandemic hit, someone reached out to me and said, Mike, your first book, Speak With No Fear, has been wildly popular. You should write a book on this. And after a year, I said, okay. And so I did. And I released Speak and Meet Virtually in 2021. I thought it was very interesting. One of the early reviewers said, yeah, decent book for people who don't know what they're doing. That this is not applicable to the younger generation who knows how to turn on Zoom. It made me think that the person didn't really dive into the book, because a lot of the people I work with are younger and still not using Zoom effectively. Sure, they can turn on the button and find out where mute and where unmute is, and maybe put on a light behind their camera. But so many people are still using virtual conferencing in a way that actually pulls away from the power of it, instead of leaning into the power that is present. So whether you're young, whether you're older, I want to help you understand how to make virtual conferencing more powerful, and then 3 specifics of what you can do to apply that. And then you could dive in even more in my book, but this is going to give you enough that you can amp up your game right away. Before we dive into that picture of why and then what to do, let me quickly remind everybody, this is a one-shot, no-edit show. In other words, I'm not going through a lot of different takes, and we're not taking out different parts. I actually leave in different flubs as a reminder to people that it's okay to be imperfect, that people will listen through your imperfection. And as you're speaking, when you do something that's just not 100%, it's not the end of the world. Let me encourage you on that. Don't let those little flubs take away from the confidence that you have in your communication. And at the same time, if you have lots of flubs and lots of ums, it's no longer flubs. It's actually just poor speaking. So you do want to get better in those different areas. All right. So encouragement if you're leaning one way or the other. All right. Why is communication virtually so different? What's going on? There's 2 different ways that we operate in. We have a social mode and we have a solo mode. In social mode, it's if I'm going to a conference, I'm going to be in social mode. I'm going to go see people. Hey, how's it going? Even if I'm an introvert, I'm going to be, hey, how's it going? Hi. Maybe I'll do it a little bit less. But if I am in that kind of social setting, I'm acting socially. So my eyes are staying attuned, my ears, my body, I'm fully physically present in that conference room or in that conference or that sales meeting or with the client or with my friends, whatever kind of social setting. There's a lot of things that activate in us, whether we're introverts or extroverts, that happen in social meetings. Typically, our eyes start looking around and we're greeted with the eye contact of others, which releases all kinds of good feelings into us. And we actually like looking into the eyes of other people. Even if you don't, your eyes, your body, your psyche does. Granted that you don't have some kind of reason that you don't psychologically. And if you do, then you should go see a counselor about that and dive into why you can't meet people in the eye. Side note. So we go into social mode. Now, when we go out of the computer, we go into solo mode. I'm going to work on my budget. I'm going to do some coding. I'm going to write some emails. I'm going to do whatever it is that I do at the computer for my job or with my tools. I'm going to grab my hammer. I'm going to go pound some things, and I'm going to go into solo mode. So we have a solo mode that, just like if you're going to go work on a project your own, it happens at the computer desk on your own. So for years, we've been working at the computer by ourselves. Being at the computer meant solo mode. Even if we had lots of people around us in cubicles, we're still in solo mode. We get into the zone and we get going. When the pandemic happened, all of a sudden, these crashed at an alarming speed. Solo mode and social mode became something that was happening at the same time. We were at the computer in a social setting. We were at the computer, solo mode, but we were in a web conference, in a virtual conference. We were at the computer with our client. And here's what happened. Social mode got run over by solo mode. So the same way that people reacted in solo mode started being how they acted in this new social solo mode. They're in a social setting conference, but they're acting as if they're just at their computer. So what you see, and I can't model it so much because my virtual studio is set up a little bit different, but all of a sudden you see people who are looking down at their camera, or they're looking up at their camera, or they have a grainy picture that you can't see at all, or the laptop is on their lap and it's going back and forth, or it's getting very blurry because they're having a hard time focusing. So all kinds of different things are suddenly happening in front of their computer. They're acting like they're in solo mode by themselves, even though they're in social mode in this group setting. What do we do? First of all, it starts out with this. You have to realize that you are in social mode. Anytime you're in virtual conferencing, I want you to start acting like you're with people. Just even right now, I'm trying to pretend, even though I'm alone in my virtual studio here, I'm trying to act like I'm with you, like you're sitting right there and I'm talking to you and I'm encouraging you and I'm teaching you. And so I have all of my social indicators are on. I write about this a lot in the book and dive into some studies about this. That's what you need to first understand. That's one of the reasons why Zoom and virtual conferencing has taken away energy. It's because people are all showing up as in solo mode, and a whole bunch of people being de-energizes the room. So for you in 2022, bring your A game, show up. If you're in a social web conference, social meeting, act like you are at it, even if you're at the solo environment of the computer. Okay, how do you do that? 3 different things. First of all, setup. I want you to take some time to get a decent setup. It doesn't have to be world class. It doesn't have to be perfect. It could be just a drop that you hang behind you. But I want you to invest in your setup. Imagine if you had just graduated from college and were taking a job in the finance sector. What would you have to do? You would have to get a suit. You just have to. It's the uniform of that job sector. So you'd have to get a suit and maybe tie or whatever it might look like. But you would buy the clothes so that you could fit into that kind of setting, that professional setting. Now, other jobs don't require that. That's fine. But financial sector, they do. The uniform of today's professional world is this window that you're seeing me at if you're watching the YouTube right here. It's the backdrop. The moment you see it, even if I can be casual in a t-shirt, a V t-shirt, or whatever it might look like, even if I can be casual here, I need to be somewhat dressed up here. And this should be looking professional as well as a little bit personal. It tells you a little bit about yourself. Same with a suit you would buy. You don't buy the same suit that someone else has just because they look good in it. You want to buy a suit that you look good in and also reflects you. It reflects your measurements, not their measurements. I'm not going to buy a suit for someone who's 7 foot tall if I'm 6 foot tall, or I'm not going to buy one that's 5 foot tall if I'm 6 foot tall. No matter how good it looks on them, I need to personalize it to me. So it's a nice looking suit, but it's also got some personal indicators. It's got this little sign that says Dad right here. It's got my record player that I play at night, some records here if I'm working in the evening. It tells you a little bit about me. But it's also professional. This is real wood right here. It's not fake. This is books right here. I don't have all these kind of crazy books on here. I have more kind of these professional type books on here, but it tells you a little bit about myself. So I want you to invest in your setup. I want you to be thinking about backdrop, camera, get some nice cameras. The camera I'm using right here and over here, these are $200 cameras. I have some other cameras spread out throughout the office too for more virtual trainings that I do for people. And then I have a light behind here. I actually have the ability to bring a lot more light into the office as well. So I have backlights behind. The window is not here. The window's over here, but I have blackout curtains on the window so that I can control the amount of light coming in. All of that helps when I'm going into a professional meeting or a corporate meeting. People aren't distracted by the angle, by the lighting, by the backdrop. They're able to take it in quickly and go, yep, that looks good. And I'm able to carry on. Just like the finance sector. You see somebody in a hoodie in the finance sector and you go, what's that person doing? This is the wrong place. We're in a banking environment. Everybody's wearing suits. You're out of place here. You don't want to be out of place. Or if everybody is grimy, don't be like everybody else. Step up a notch and get a good setting. I could talk to you a lot more about this. I do in my book. Okay, so setup. Eye contact. Just like when you're talking with people, you want to be meeting people and looking them in the eye and not just scanning the audience, but actually meeting them and talking to them in the eye. So too, when you are speaking to a virtual audience, you want to be able to speak to them in the eye. So what I've done for this is I've actually taken the camera, put it right above my screen, and then I put the Zoom video, and I use Teams, and I use Blue Jeans, and all these different things, working with different customers and different clients. But I put the camera right here, and then I put a small screen right underneath here. That means I can see the entirety of what's happening. If I do really big, my eyes go down to their eye contact. Sometimes what I'll see is that people have a camera over here and a screen over here, and they're looking at different screens, and as a result of it, I don't know where they're looking. Also, you don't want to be looking around the whole time when you're doing a communication because it's distracting. There's a lot more I could say about that, but ultimately you want to be looking towards the camera. So right now I'm looking at the camera. Right now I'm looking at the screen where I'm being videoed right here, and you can see how close it is to the camera. It makes it look like I'm looking at the camera. The general rule is this. When you're talking, look at the camera. If they're talking, then you can look at them. And you can glance between the two in that as well, as long as it's not very distracting. Okay, so setup, get a good setup. Invest some time in a backdrop. Get some lights behind the camera. Blackout curtains for any windows that are going to add light where you don't want it. Get a good camera. Get a microphone. I got a microphone that's a $200 microphone right here that's picking up my audio. I'm turning around a little bit today, so it's not all coming in to the same place. But when I'm in a meeting, you can hear it right there. It's just right there with it. So invest in that. And then in your eye contact, looking towards the camera, position your camera above. Really, if you just have a laptop, you probably need to get a camera that is above it. Get a nice one. Spend the $50. Spend the $200. The Brio is the one I use. Love it. You can get HDMI one. You could get a really big one, $500 camera, and make it look really nice. But you don't need to. But $200 is worth it. Just like that nice suit for the banking industry. Get a nice setup. Get a nice camera. Get it all set up. And then look to the camera. Okay. Third key, energy level. What happens when you're doing your budgeting on your computer? You're not going, right? Your energy lower is kind of lower. Or if you're writing that email, I mean, what kind of facial expressions do you think you make when you're doing the different things that you're doing at the computer? They're not like super engaged. They're kind of, and what happens a lot of times when we're sitting at the computer, our shoulders drop, we tend to hunch a little bit. So we're kind of leaning over, our face is down, our energy's lower, our breath is not able to get great breaths because we're kind of leaning over, our chest and our lungs are kind of compressed, and so we're kind of not speaking with the best breath work. And then if we take this kind of solo activity And we go into a social setting. Can you see why the whole room right now just got the air sucked out of it? It's because everybody's showing up to the virtual conference and they're distracted. They don't have a great environment. They're not set up. They're not dressed for it, right? There's so much going on. So here's what I want you to do. Third thing, not just setup, not just eye contact, energy level. Energy level. So what I do every single day is I get dressed. Yes. But I don't just get dressed for just being around the house. I have nice jeans on today. Today I got a V-neck. My suit jacket's over there. And, I get dressed for the day. Like I'm going to go out and do something. I actually do something with my hair. I shaved. Yeah, I'm doing videos today, but sometimes I'm not doing videos and I still do that. And so what you want to do is you want to, if you're going to show up at a meeting, you want to show up at the meeting. You want to get your energy attuned, starting with the way that you treat yourself, because if you treat yourself well, you're more likely to come across well to the people you're talking to. And then what do you want to do? You want to amp up the way that you're talking, energy, the movement, the excitement. So you're not just like, we got another, you want to be intentional about the way you speak. Think about it like this. Remember a first date? What did you do on a first date? Best foot forward. What did you do on an interview? Best foot forward. You want to put your best foot forward, even if you already got them on the hook. I remember this story where this gentleman was out with his wife and two friends. And they were talking, and I've never seen his wife, but he was talking about how his wife is drop dead gorgeous. And he said that, man, I hope my wife never dies. He was joking around. He says, I hope my wife never dies because I'd have to go back to the gym again. And the other couple laughed. And he had put on a whole bunch of weight and stuff. His wife says, so wait a minute. You would go to the gym for somebody else, but you wouldn't go to the gym for me? It was like this eye-opening moment for him. And he thought, you're right. Why am I treating it like I already got you on the hook, and so I don't have to take care of myself, when you deserve that even more than that person that I would date for the first time? So he started going back to the gym and he got really good shape. And I've thought about that and applying it here. Sometimes we put our best foot forward. We are gym ready. We're first date ready. And we look good in an interview. And we look good in that beginning. And then over the course of time, in the web conference with our team, we start getting lazy and we start doing this. And we don't care about our setup. We don't care about our eye contact. We don't care about our energy level. So instead, ramp up the energy level. Have your team watch this video. Watch it together. Read the book together. Study it together. Bring up the energy. Use the fullness of your breath. Use eye contact. Use the intonation that varies up and down. Use different pace that goes fast and then slow it down and use some pauses and all of that. And even with some good hand movements. Obviously, I'm overdoing some of it to make a point. Use some of that to ramp up the energy. I like it to this. When I go to a restaurant with my son, he can now go to the bathroom by himself. I still often walk over to the bathroom. But when he was a littler kid, I'd have to go in there, not only change his diaper, but eventually I would go in there and help him and make sure everything's okay. And then what happened? I got to a spot where I could stay outside the door. I'm still there, but now that door has become an opportunity and an obstacle. It's an opportunity for me not to have to be in the bathroom with my son when he's going. But it's also an obstacle because I can't be there right there with him, helping him out and coaching him. I have to trust that he's there. Zoom is an obstacle and an opportunity. It's an obstacle because we're not right here together holding hands. I'm not doing this training in person. It's also an opportunity because I can do this training for you wherever you are and have viewers around the world. So it's both. But you know what really takes that from an obstacle to an opportunity? For me to be able to lean into the door and talk through it. For if I just don't lean in and I just lower my energy and act like I'm by myself, then when I'm looking at that door, my son won't be able to hear me. I'm like, hey, bud, are you okay in there? But if I lean in and I get very intentional and say, hey, Pax, everything going good in there? Make sure you wash your hands, man. All right, you can hear me? You got that? So see, I'm elevating my tone. I'm leaning in. I'm fully engaged. And that turns that obstacle of a door into an opportunity for me to have freedom and for him to have freedom as well. This right here is an obstacle if we let it be. Encouraging you to lean in with extra energy, with extra enthusiasm, to make this not be an obstacle that divides and disengages and disconnects and really deters us from doing life and business, but really invites us, no matter where we are, to be fully engaged, fully connected, fully there with each other across the distance. So, when it comes to Zoom and virtual conference, stop acting like you're in solo mode and be fully present in vibrant, real life, engaging, fully you social life. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I appreciate it and encourage you to lean into this. Take a moment, like, subscribe, share this, watch this with some teammates, and think through how you can lean in instead of leaning out.
Thanks for listening to Advance with Mike Acker, a podcast designed to provide an edge for leaders through improving practical leadership skills and increasing confidence in speaking. Mike is a best-selling author and business owner who has helped many leaders increase their skills and their confidence, propelling them to new heights in their personal and professional endeavors. Join an incredible group of professionals taking the steps to become better leaders at connect.stepstoadvance.com. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe so you never miss an episode.